Hello. Today it's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. David Price, President at Bok Tower Gardens. David has 35 years of experience in the public garden field. He holds a BS in botany from Clemson University. David was appointed president of Bok Tower Gardens in 2007 after 20 years as the director of horticulture. He oversees the organization with a staff of 72 full-time employees and a $7.4 million budget. He recently completed a $16 million capital improvement project for preservation, garden expansion, and education. David has served on numerous boards and committees for local and national organizations. He is founder and president of the Green Horizon Land Trust that has preserved nearly 6,000 acres of conservation land in Central Florida. David is an accomplished sculptor, and after looking at his pictures, he is a gifted sculptor. And he's been represented in numerous private and public collections and has shown in state and national shows. His book, Bok Tower Gardens, America's Taj Mahal, was published in 2013. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. David Price.
Can you hear me? Yeah. It's great to have a clock that big back there. I just want to say thank you for inviting me, and also just congratulations for celebrating 100 years. There's very few organizations such as your meeting here that's lasted that long. Bok Tower Gardens, we're celebrating our 90th anniversary this coming year. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the gardens and just some of our programming, a little bit about the history. First, I want to ask, how many of you all have been to Bok Tower Gardens? Good. How many of you all are members at Bok Tower Gardens? Good. That means there's a lot more of you to join. At your table, there are membership applications, and on each of those membership applications is a free pass for the gardens. So you can use that pass or give it away. If you use the pass, you do come to the gardens, I encourage you to become members at the gardens. We have 7,000 household members. As Alice mentioned, we've just recently gone through a major expansion to make the garden more relevant and sustainable. We've increased a lot of our programming to attract young families with children, but with adult education, much more entertainment. I want to talk a little bit about the gardens. The tower was dedicated in 1929 by President Calvin Coolidge. The gardens were started in 1922. The tower has not changed much over the years, but the gardens has certainly grown. We've grown from a sunny garden to a woodland shaded garden. And I always laugh when I think about Edward Bok. There's a quote, not many people know it, but it resonates with me almost every day. He said, "Now the tower is complete, it's made out of stone, it will not take any more maintenance." And I think about that every time we go through another restoration phase. But the gardens were actually created as a bird sanctuary, as a wildlife sanctuary. And Edward Bok loved birds. He came to Mountain Lake Community, which was right next to Bok Tower Gardens. Or next to what was to be Bok Tower Gardens. And there was a Mountain Lake had divided up the land on top of the Iron Mountain, a hill, and they were going to build homes there. Edward Bok purchased the home sites and hired Frederick Law Olmsted, who was laying out Mountain Lake, to do a design for a public garden on top of the Iron Mountain. And it was going to be Mountain Lake Sanctuary. So it was a sanctuary for wildlife and birds. Edward Bok and his wife had lived in Philadelphia. Edward Bok retired. Edward Bok felt that men should work hard, make a lot of money, retire early, and then do good things for the community. And I know Rotary is dedicated to doing good things for the community. Edward Bok's grandmother told him when he was leaving the Netherlands, she said, "Make you the world a bit better or more beautiful because you've lived in it." So many things that Edward Bok did throughout his life was to make the world better and more beautiful. When he was creating the gardens, he also sponsored a World Peace Prize, and it was American Peace Prize. He put $100,000 for the best world plan for world peace. And for the first 10 years of the foundation he started, that was the foundation's #1 cause, was promoting world peace. And then the U.S. government said promoting world peace was political, and you can't be political and be a nonprofit. So they decided they would do something different, and that was promote fair health care for everyone. So from 1935 to 1965, the foundation promoted health care. And in 1965, Medicare came into existence, and the foundation had a big part of that and said, well, we'll do something else for society. And they started working on prison reform. And so we did prison reform from 1965 to about 1980. And that was to make prisons a place of reform rather than just penalizing people. And then in 1980, the foundation turned its cause to just supporting the gardens. Edward Bach's wife, Mary Louise Curtis, was active in starting the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia when Edward Bach was creating the gardens. Our mission is to inspire a better and more beautiful world by sharing Edward Bach's legacy. It harkens back to his grandmother's saying. First and foremost, we're a wildlife sanctuary for birds, for reptiles, for insects, pollinators. It's a place where people can come and enjoy nature. I say we have 3 legs. We're like a 3-legged stool, 3 main parts to our mission. First, it's wildlife and conservation, and the next there's music. The carillon we have is one of the world's finest carillons. It's a 60-bell carillon. The largest bell is 12 tons. In total, the weight of the carillon is 60 tons. Our carillonneur is Geert de Hollander, and he's one of the finest carillonneurs in the world. He comes from Antwerp. We're very lucky to have him. He's not only a gifted musician, but he's a very gifted composer. And we have a fellowship program where we sponsor 3 fellows to come each year. And this is an international fellowship program, and we've had some really gifted carillonneurs come to study mainly composition under here. And the added benefit for us is these folks are very adept players at the carillon, and they also perform while they're doing their fellowship. The carillon is housed in the tower. The tower is 208 foot tall. It's neo-Gothic with Art Deco adornment on it. And throughout the tower, there's a sculpture, and really the tower is as beautiful outside as the inside. The founder's room, the ground floor room, is the only room finished in the tower. We have multiple levels. We have maintenance. We have an archive. We have a library. We have a carillonneur studio, and above that is the carillon. The other leg to the stool is our gardens. The gardens were created, as I said, by Frederick Olmsted Jr. And Frederick Olmsted went to the wilds of Florida to get inspiration for the gardens. If any of you have been to Highlands Hammock, that was where Olmsted spent a lot of time studying the hammock, and he wanted to recreate that hammock feel on top of Iron Mountain. And then about halfway, maybe a little more than halfway through the garden's creation, Edward Bach realized there was not enough color in his garden, and he wanted more color in his garden, so he asked Olmsted to plant more azaleas and camellias. And we have some interesting letters between the 2 of them. But also we do a lot with native plants. Native plants is the basis for the planting in the gardens. We have a wide variety of native plants, showy plants, and we intermix those with non-natives. First and foremost, we are a sanctuary, though, as a garden of quiet repose, a place where people can come and meditate, a place where you can come and have a good conversation, where you could remember people you've lost. And this is what Edward Bach really wanted to create. When he was creating the garden, it was a few years after World War I, and Edward Bach really thought that the next war was going to be Armageddon. And so he wanted to do something for world peace, but he wanted to create, which in his mind was like the Garden of Eden, where plants or animals and man could interact, and it was a peaceful place. But not only for singular peaceful repose, but also there are times when groups of people come, such as our sunrise service on Easter, literally have 2,000 people meditating together in the beauty of the garden. But the gardens are a place for adults to enjoy conversation, relaxation. But the gardens are also a place for children. And we have many members who, children, all they know is Bach Tower Gardens from the time they're young. And that's what they think the rest of the world is. And so they really own the place. And we're trying to do more and more for children. And I feel that we should give children the very best. We have the very best art. And sometimes you see a child look at a great piece of art, and they just sort of run by it, and they look at it, and they run by, and you think it's just gone over their head. But that is their life. That's their paradigm. They think the whole world is beautiful like that. And it's not until they get older and they move on in life that they realize that was a very special place. And so those children who are seeing the art at Bach Tower Gardens will remember that, and those children will be making the decisions in the future of what our world should be. So we should give children the very best and stay away from primary colors and bright plastic. We have an estate house on the properties as part of Mountain Lake. Edward Bach did not live at Pinewood Estate, but C. Austin Buck lived there. It's an estate house. It's probably one of the finest examples of Mediterranean architecture in the United States. In fact, there's a book published on Mediterranean architecture, and the cover piece was of Pinewood. House has been very well protected and never been added onto, and it's fully furnished. We do have special events at Pinewood. We have concerts, but also our biggest event is Christmas at Pinewood. We decorate the house for Christmas time. We have about 30,000 guests who come through the house. The house today is like a museum house. We have a lot of entertainment, a lot of musical events. For this talk, I said, well, I'm just going to do a count of how many live concerts we have a year, and we're going to have 450 live concerts next year. And those are concerts, those are carillon recitals. We have 2 a day. But we have, we're going to have, in February, we're going to have the International Carillon Festival. We're going to have 5 guest carillonneurs coming, and it'll be a week long of music. And then in June, we have the North American Guild of Carillonneurs. Carillonneurs from all over the United States will be coming to the gardens and playing music. Besides the carillon, we have folk music, jazz, Americana music, as well as classical music. But the gardens are a place for play and discovery for adults as well as children. I mentioned we've done some expansion. We've built a new children's garden, Hammock Hollow. It's a place where there's a lot of art incorporated. You see some of the mosaics we put in the ground. And I love watching kids run across the mosaic. They run and they look down and then they just run off. And the adults stop and they just sort of look at these mosaics. But the children, they're taking it in. And the children really react well. There's a lot of textures, there's a lot of things for them to do that's reminiscent of nature. We have had a lot of parents come there, and I've talked to them, and their children are autistic. And I'm just amazed at how many parents that have children who are autistic who come to Hammock Hollow, and I've asked them why their children like the garden, and they say it's just quiet, it's calming, there's a lot of textures, and they say their children really relax. We've had one woman, she comes from Orlando to bring her children. But we also do learning for adults. We like to say it's experiential learning. Just like children, I mean, we're all people, children and adults. We all learn through play, and children play active play, but as adults, we play by having experiences. And so there's experiences of art, of creation, of horticulture, of gardening, and this is learning that's effortless. It doesn't take you a lot of effort. You don't have to read a lot. You don't have to remember. It's just doing things. But we also have summer programs, and our summer programs for children are not just about activities and keeping kids occupied for the summer. We have, this year we had the Leader in Me, we had a culinary class, we had a nature class, we had an art class, but just teaching kids teamwork, teaching them confidence, all in the outdoor setting where they're experiencing this learning development. But the gardens are a place where families and friends can gather. We have lots of family reunions at the gardens. As sort of a side, somebody told me it's a great internet dating site place. That when you're dating somebody and you want to meet them, you know, it's right in the middle of the state. You know, you could rendezvous there. It's sort of a classy place, but it's sort of quiet, but it's also a public place. So I think we have a lot of hookups at the gardens. But we also, a lot of our events, you know, they're about, many of our member events, we have members coming, you know, to share food, to share drink and music. I say that the garden should be a place where people enjoy. You know, we've sort of, I'll say, we let down our hair a little bit. We've allowed more things to go on in the gardens that maybe in the past we didn't. We've become dog friendly now, and if you have a dog, you can bring your dog on a leash. We have a lot of weddings. We have over 60 weddings a year, and it's really interesting to see that we have all sorts of weddings, and it's interesting to see how many different people interpret the wedding ceremonies at the gardens. But another garden area we built is the outdoor kitchen and edible garden. The outdoor kitchen is a place where we have guest chefs come and teach cooking, but it's also a place where people just can come and fellowship. The outdoor kitchen is also available for renting for special events. Like I said, we have visiting chefs for children as well as adults. People really enjoy food, and it's about, food is not just about just eating, but it's about creating, it's about health, it makes us who we are and makes us healthy, and the more we know about the food we eat, the better we are, both in terms of for our bodies, but also where the food came from, who grew it, who prepared it, and what's been sprayed on it or what's not been sprayed on it. But there's always a fun time in the gardens. We have beer and wine tasting and pairing with foods, all in the name of education. And then back to one of the other legs of the stool is conservation and wildlife. We have an endangered plant program. We are a member of the Center for Plant Conservation. For about 32 years, we've been a member of the Center for Plant Conservation. This is an organization of North American public gardens, botanical gardens, that are working to conserve Florida's, or the rarest plant species in North America. And in Florida, we have a really high number of rare endemic plant species that occur here and nowhere else in the world. On the Lake Wales Ridge, we have 48 plant species that are found on the ridge and nowhere else in the world. And some of these plant species are going to go extinct. We do field work, we do lab work, we do DNA analysis, we do collect seed. We have a big propagation area in our greenhouses. We're growing these plants for research, but also we're growing these plants to put them back out on preserved lands. Some of the plants, this is a beautiful scrub morning glory, Bonamia grandiflora. And there's only about 5 locations on the Lake Wales Ridge where this occurs. It's a pretty beautiful plant. It's as pretty as a picture. The other aspect of what we do is land management. We manage about 600 acres of property, and we do prescribed burns on the property. This is a burn we did last month, and we burn the pinelands off to keep them open, to keep the oak trees and the shade trees from coming in. And encourages the grasses. And this really promotes the native plants as well as the native animals. We have a lot of gopher tortoises, a whole lot of gopher tortoises. And what we're finding is the areas we're not burning, the gopher tortoises are being pushed out of those areas and they're getting concentrated in the open fields. So we've had a burn program actually since 1987. But we've really amped it up a little bit in the last 5 years to keep the grounds more open. We're also doing land preservation. as you drive into Bok Tower Gardens. There's a large expanse of agricultural land. It's about 1,700 acres. We don't own all that property. We have been purchasing some of the property. We had a state grant in 2005. We were able to purchase about 250 acres. We have partnered with the Green Horizon Land Trust to purchase conservation easements or purchase land fee simple. We've had donations, but we're trying to conserve more and more land. And now I think we're up to about 680 acres that we have preserved either through conservation easements or fee simple purchase. But and you all know citrus is on the way out for right now until they find a solution for citrus greening. And as we're seeing some of the groves, and we have some of the best groves in Florida around the gardens, and the people who are working the groves do an excellent job, but it's a really uphill battle for some of the smaller growers, and we're seeing these groves go fallow and be pushed up. If we can secure those properties, we are planting pines back on them and doing restoration. This is a knoll area next to the tower. It's one of the favorite places to get wedding pictures. I see all these photo shoots out in this field, but this field is full of gopher tortoises now. It used to be a former citrus grove. We have seasonal events. Our Rootstock Plant Festival is coming up. It's October 19th and 20th. We have a membership event on the 19th. Actually, that's the day before the plant festival. We'll have about 9,000 people at the festival. If you're a member, you can come the night before for food and drink and music, and you're running the place and pick of the plants. And that's on the October 19th. But just wanted to end just again to remind you about membership. Membership is not about access to the gardens, but it's about support of the gardens. And your membership does support the gardens. It also gives you special access to the gardens to bring family and friends with you and really share the gift of what Edward Bok has given the American people. But I'll end with that, and this is our website. You can go to boktowergardens.org. We've got just our new program has just come out. Actually, it's being printed, and it'll be out next week. It's online. But we have about 80 events through the year, lots of things ranging from adult to children's education to musical events to plant sales to Christmas at Pinewood. But I invite you all to visit our website and come out to the gardens. And thank you very much.